Portnoy to join us and tell us all about the story of her father and grandparents.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited that the family is here and that we're able to tell our stories. So my story is written out because my story is very long, so I had to condense it. Otherwise, they would have gotten a big hook to take me off the stage. So I'm going to read it. Plus, there are some things that were pretty emotional in my story, so I wanted to make sure that it stayed on track when I was reading it. So here goes. In less than 24 hours, my grandmother, grandfather, and father fled Budapest on a weekday morning in the autumn of 1956, after my grandmother received life-threatening news. My grandmother, Gisela Ferenc Oberdorfer, was a Hungarian woman to the core, with her innate duty to feed people. And 24 hours before her life would unknowingly change forever, she chose to feed sandwiches to resistance soldiers. See, this is why I wrote it out. Start. She chose to feed sandwiches to resistance soldiers outside the back of the place where she worked. As a result, someone reported her actions, and her name was put on the list in her boss's office. Luckily, my grandmother's friend, who also worked with her in the kitchen, brought the boss's lunch that day and saw my grandmother's name on the list of that on the top of that list. The list of land and the longing for reconnection is the immigration story of my grandmother, Gisela Ferenc Oberdorfer, my grandfather, Imre István Oberdorfer, and my father, Imre József Oberdorfer. Being mindful of time, I will focus mainly on my grandmother for this story. This is the first time my grandmother's stories have been recorded chronologically, and it's also the first time I had to search deep into my mental collection of stories to organize and record her shared memories that were recounted to me over her lifetime. The stories of her life before immigrating, to the US came to me in pieces over time when something inspired her to share a memory. Usually while doing ordinary things like cooking, watching television, or driving in the car, my grandmother would reminisce about her childhood growing up in the village of Bent in AFHLE County. Born in 1928, she was one of 5 children, living a happy life and carefree childhood in the village, and she would tell me stories of school, her siblings, and family life, which would of course prompt me to ask follow-up questions like, how did you keep from cold in the winter? Or why does your mother always wear a black dress? By sharing stories of her childhood and her pre-immigration days, I now realize that her stories that she shared with me were her way of preserving her memories of the life she left in Hungary. After a mostly tranquil teenage life in the village, my grandmother's life transitioned into hiding with her sister to avoid passing troops that were sweeping through the villages during World War II. She became a wife after the war when she married my grandfather, and then she was a grieving mother when she lost her first child at 6 months old. After the death of their first child, a daughter also named Gisela, my grandparents moved to Budapest to be closer to my grandfather's family because they were not going to take the chance of living too far away from modern medical facilities once they would hopefully be blessed with another child. My father, Imre József Oberdorfer, later in the U.S. to be known as James, was born in Budapest in April of 1949. My grandparents and father continued to live mostly a tranquil and fulfilling life in the 11th district of Budapest for the next 7 years. To say that life was perfect during that time would be sugarcoating her memories. One story that she recounted about a terrifying moment that happened a few weeks prior to her sudden escape as the 1956 uprising was heating up around them, is what she told me. Through conversation while cooking, she told me that when the artillery fire was happening close to her house, my 7-year-old father clung to her leg while she was cooking, crying out to not let him die. I asked her why she didn't stop cooking to comfort my dad, and she said that of course she comforted him, but with one hand. She needed to keep stirring the dinner on the stove with the other hand because, as she said, that if they didn't die from the artillery fire, the family would still be hungry for dinner. She always made a joke about things. I guess that's how you get through. the day my grandmother came home and told my grandfather about the name being on the list. Without hesitation and without telling anyone else in the family, my grandmother, my grandfather, my father dressed for work and school the next day. But they didn't go to work or school. They left with some pictures and documents, and that's it, thinking that maybe they would return one day. During their trek to safety, there were many dangerous moments for them. One moment, my grandmother shared, rather matter-of-factly, about her escape, was when we were watching The Sound of Music. I couldn't have been more than 12 years old. At the end of the movie, when the Von Trapps were hiding in the abbey, to escape the Nazis, behind some large, structures, they were moving from side to side to avoid the flashlights and shadows. My grandmother turned to me and said, "That's what we did when we escaped." You can imagine, my eyes were saucers in that moment. We had to walk through the forest, past Russian troops, and we had to move behind the trees to avoid the car headlights and the shadows. They made it across the border to Austria when my father's 7-year-old legs gave out and he collapsed to the ground after my grandmother assured him they were finally safe. They spent the next few months in an Austrian refugee camp waiting to be processed and transported to a country that was accepting Hungarian immigrants. In the interim, they also spent Christmas in the camp, which you can see the picture of my dad, except I think it was there. Before they boarded a plane in April of 1957, and England was their first choice. Probably because it was closer, but the plane was full. And clearly I don't speak with an English accent. So they boarded the plane of their second choice to the United States, where they were transported to their next refugee location, Camp Kilmer in New Jersey. Okay. Like many of the Hungarian immigrants at that time, my grandparents worked to assimilate into the American culture, and they took pride in their hard work to achieve the American dream of steady employment, owning a car, a home, as you can see they're standing in front of their car there, and celebrating milestones with the American life they created so far away from their Hungarian family, and that's them at their 50th anniversary. So, rounding up here, my grandparents maintained connection with their family through letter writing, but as they aged, communications dwindled. Living in fear, my grandmother never returned to Hungary. She died on February 2nd, 2013, which was also my birthday, and I thought that when she died, my Hungarian story died too. I thought that I had lost the opportunity to connect with the Hungarian side of my family, but the opposite happened. The opposite happened. My family visited Hungary for the first time, and you can see on the left, that's the picture of my family in my grandmother's little town. For the first time, a year after she passed. And I thought that I would also never connect with my Hungarian family. But I received communication from my second cousin, Zoltan, 2 years ago, and lots more to this story in the book, but that's us meeting for the first time. And we have since started to reconnect our families together. Over the past decade, I also spent time reconnecting with the Hungarian community. It evolved from new friendships, volunteering and becoming a board member at the American Hungarian Foundation with my friend Melissa, helping with the annual Hungarian Festival, thank you, in New Brunswick, the Hungarian Heritage podcast that I created to share and preserve Hungarian culture for all people with Hungarian heritage, and of course the friendships I've made through this Hungarian Roots and American Dreams adventure. Also, opportunities and experiences for my children through acquiring dual citizenship, my son playing on the men's Hungarian national lacrosse team, and there are 2 members here today, my son and his friend. And my husband's love and support for all the Hungarian things we do. Even though he's not Hungarian, he loves it all. And it all happened, most importantly, because of my family's immigration story. So, after writing this story for the Hungarian Roots and American Dreams volume, I realized that all the stories of my grandmother's life are part of her immigration story. Her story might be minuscule in comparison to the greater immigration conversation, but it's extremely impactful to those who knew and loved her. The loss and the memories were always there, and her immigration story wasn't just hers, it became all of ours too. These stories are important to share and to preserve for the next generation. Lastly, in addition to all the memories, I carry with me the tenacity and the inspiration that if my grandmother could survive World War II, the Hungarian Revolution, and rebuilding a life in a new country, I can manage all the things in life that come my way. I know she looks down on me and my family with love and pride. And that's Thanks for letting me share this work, and sorry for a little bit of time.